All right, now we're going to look at the components and the specific function of the colon, right? So the colon begins at the terminal end of the small intestine. What is the last region of the small intestine called? It's called the ileum. Ileum connects to the ascending colon, right? Ascending going up with this one structure in green, which is called the cecum. The cecum is this pouch, and attached to it in blue, this is referred to as the appendix, right? So appendix is the lymphoid tissue, so it plays a role in the lymphatic system. So as we go up in terms of direction, you have the ascending going up, you have the transverse going across, then you have the descending going down. And you see this sort of this little S-shaped structure of the colon. This is called the sigmoidal. That's where the S comes from. And finally, you have the rectum, and everything goes out the anus, right? So this is the last part mainly of the digestive system, and we're going to talk about its functions. What does it do? So the way the colon, or another name for it is colon, or the large intestine works is, in terms of movement of majority of the material, is through a process called segmentation and peristalsis. So peristalsis is muscular contractions that causes the movement of the particles, and segmentation is this churning, haustration of mixing. Both of that happens in the colon taking place. And so when we talk about the colon, what's unique about the colon? The colon is the region in the GI tract where there's a high abundance of bacteria or microbiome or flora. And the specific type of strain are a bunch of E. coli. So E. coli are present in this. And you know, when I ask you, are good bacteria good or bad? That's a trick question. It depends on what we're looking at. If they're parasitic, they're bad. If they're symbiotic and they work together and they create all these specific kind of material for the bodies of specific organisms, they actually play a big role. All right. And so here, when you have this material that is created, you have a high prevalence of bacteria, specifically E. coli. And their main function is to convert certain metabolites into vitamins, right? So we have vitamin B's and vitamin K's. So vitamin B's are responsible for what? So vitamin B is a cofactor that can play a role in a lot of different kind of physiological processes, right? So there's about 12 vitamins, probably more, probably less, maybe haven't discovered. And one of the main ones we talked about is red blood cell production. So vitamin B is responsible. Which vitamin B is responsible? Vitamin B12, folic acid, B6, these are all responsible for the production of healthy red blood cells. Another vitamin that is made from this bacteria is called vitamin K. What is vitamin K responsible for? So vitamin K is responsible for production of blood clotting, right? Coagulation. So these patients, for example, that have these are on blood thinners because of excessive levels of coagulation, right? They recommend these patients not to eat a lot of vegetables. A lot of green vegetables have a high abundance of vitamin K, and if you're trying to thin your blood, you want to be anticoagulant as possible, in a state of anticoagulation. And so vitamin K is usually not recommended. So these vitamin productions, K and B, that are produced by the bacteria. Also absorption. So the only thing that is absorbed in the colon is water and certain ions. That's it. Nothing else. No nutrients, nothing are absorbed. Everything else that is being absorbed usually happens in the small intestine. And so the final process for this is formation of stool, right? So there's absorption and of these different material. Now you have this fecal matter that's being produced. And so after producing of vitamins, all right, we say absorption of water. So water and ions, H2O, and certain kinds of ions, sodiums, potassiums here. And the final process here, right? So you have, we do 1, 2. The final thing it does is defecation, right? So all of the waste that has been generated, metabolic waste from beginning of the oral cavity that migrated all the way up to the final region here of the sigmoidal colon gets defecated outwards in a form of stool out the rectum, through the anus, and out into, for example, the toilet. Or if you're in the jungle, something in the in some kind of hole that you hopefully buried or you just leave it out there. Doesn't matter. But yeah, goes out.